Let us begin. Hello, everybody. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm just so glad to hear. And I'm glad that I'm here too. And I wanted to take a moment to just thank you for coming. Thank you for listening to the conversation and for considering the things that we're going to talk about. All right. I've been thinking about feminine energy since year 1 BC, and that's before COVID. And at the beginning of 2020, a friend of mine had asked me to speak to a group of women on old fashioned feminine energy. And so it's been rattling around in my brain all this time. And I decided to first look at what did that mean? What does old fashioned feminine energy mean? And the first thing that came to mind was the women of the 50s. And the second thing that came to mind, the first thing was, the stay-at-home moms that had dinner on their table when their husbands came home, and they always wore a dress and heels. And in those days, of course, it appeared that they were all cinched at the waist, pulled in. Yeah, that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So of course, I dropped the old-fashioned and thought I'd look at feminine energy. And the next thing that came to mind were the traits that society gave us. And the traits that they gave to women were opposite, seemed to be opposite of the traits that they gave to men. And those traits that men had were they were driven, they were focused, they were confident and assertive. Women were said to be emotional or empathetic or the whole nurturing thing that we do or the fragility that sometimes appears. Now, isn't that just sometimes what's considered to be behavior? That's just behavior, right? So it's just the way we act. And what they said about that was because of that, we women could only hold certain jobs, nurturing jobs where we cared for children and schools, or we were nurses or assistants to doctors, that kind of a thing. And we were considered the softer sex. In and of itself, it doesn't ring true just because it would be different in different communities. It would be different in different countries, socioeconomically, racially. They were just someone's concepts about us in our minds, someone else's idea of what I was thinking about myself was playing over and over again in my own mind. And I went back to basics. All right, what is energy? Let's just look at that. And it didn't matter where I looked, and on the internet now you can look very easily. So I looked on the internet, and when I checked whether it was physics or engineering or kids, the simplest answer that they all gave was energy was the ability to do work. Okay, the ability to do work. Women, feminine, and the ability to do work. Energy is how things change and how things move. Webster's definition was that it was the ability to be active, the physical or mental strength that allows you to get things done. So, circling back to the beginning, this time I looked at what old fashioned energy was, and I looked at my mom. My mom did a lot of those things back there that women did. She was a stay at home mom. She had dinner on the table for her man. Of course, it was easy because my dad was a school teacher, and when he got home at 4 o'clock, she had dinner ready. Um, and she always wore a dress and heels. Now, that's only interesting if you know that my mother was only 5'2" and my dad was 6'4". So, of course, she almost always wore heels. But I don't think I actually ever saw her in pants. I don't think she ever wore pants. And in fact, I don't think I actually had a pair of pants when I was little. And So when I was little, I was thin, and I had, see if you can picture this, puffy sleeves with a full circle skirt that had ties at the waist so that we could make those big bows in the back, with little ruffles on my Peter Pan collars and ruffles on my socks. And the skirt always had a place to put my hanky, always had pockets. Now, one of my mom's superpowers was that she was a fabulous seamstress. So she made all my clothes, partially because she had to, because I was thin, a lot thinner than I am now. I was as skinny as a rail. And what we did in those days, we called those outfits, those little circle skirts and the little puffy sleeves, they were girly. They were very girly. That's what we called them when I was growing up. It was a girly outfit. And that was an energy that I was given to wear. Now, jump ahead a little bit. In high school, when they lifted the dress code, I lived in jeans and a t-shirt, which I pretty much still live in now. But that became my new attire because it was me. Dresses and heels weren't me. So my mom gave me her idea of feminine, which I interpreted as girly, and it just wasn't comfortable for me. But my mom was also a powerhouse, and she was a stay-at-home mom, so she participated in all of the things that we did as kids. She was at the school. She was the president of the PTA. She was talking to my teachers to make sure they gave me what I needed. She was at the church playing the organ. She was active in the community. She was empathetic, nurturing, and compassionate. And that compassion sometimes gets mistaken for emotional, doesn't it? Anybody know what I'm saying? You know, what you can do if you want to is in the chat, just write I see. I see. If you resonate with that, just give me a little wave. And I grew up in LA, and I lived in a little house on Exposition Boulevard. In those days, on Exposition, it wasn't the Metro Rail that came down the street. It was a freight train. And they came down the street going 50 miles an hour with no bells and whistles and no arms in most of the places. So it went down the street 8 to 10 times a day. Now, on this particular day, one early morning, I woke up and I was probably about 8, and it had been lightning. That's what woke me up, thunder and lightning. And it was still early, so it wasn't time to get up because my mommy had come in to wake us up. But it had been raining all night long. I know, hard to believe, but it was Los Angeles and it rained all night long. And what they had done, I could hear my mom on the phone in the living room, and she was talking in what she called low cultured tones. You know, that mommy voice that you know you've done something wrong and she's trying to speak to you carefully so that you understand what you've done wrong and you get it, but she's trying not to yell at you. She wasn't talking to us. She was talking to the Department of Transportation because they had taken our front yard to make an additional lane on Exposition. They had taken our front yard and had dug it up, and there was this 6-foot wide river of mud and water that was probably about 4 feet deep that was rushing by our house. Just this muddy water. And this was only important because in front of our house was where the children crossed the street to go to the elementary school. It was the main point. And so my mom was up on the phone at 5 o'clock in the morning talking to the Department of Transportation, telling them they need to get over here to fix this situation so the children could get to cross the street. Not just the children, anybody. Everybody walked in those days, so we needed to be able to cross the street. And she was on the phone for 2.5 hours, off and on, calling him back every half hour. You're not here yet. When are they going to get here? What time will you be here? So she was making sure that we were taken care of. And in about 2.5 hours, they were there. In the pouring rain, in their yellow truck, laying out boards to make sure that we had something to walk across the river. That was my mom. She was driven. She was focused, she was assertive, and she was confident. She knew that she would make sure that that happened. So the feminine energy of women is not only nurturing and compassionate, but it's also focused and sensitive and assertive. Personally, I see all women as beautiful, intelligent, and creative. I've also noticed that a lot of us don't always have conversations about ourselves and who we truly are from that place of beauty, from that place of power and wisdom. And I want us all to affect each other, to see each other, to see that truth in ourselves, and to reflect it back to our sisters. Brothers, too, reflect it back to everybody. But we need to first start by seeing that power, seeing that grace within ourselves. So growing up, my mom was sick for half my life. And she was in and out of hospitals all through my childhood. I lived in my own little world because she was so sick. I didn't want to make any trouble. I wanted to keep things in balance. I wanted to be quiet. And I did what they wanted children to do in those days, which was be seen and not heard. So I lived in my own little world. I would go into my room and I would live in my own little world. I would make up games and make up stories, and I would write and I would play with my dolls, and I would talk to my imaginary friends, who I found out later was God and my spirit guides. But I would make up these little things in my own mind. I would take myself out and be in the big world the way I was in my own little mind. So often I was thought to be withdrawn and cold. I didn't talk to other people. But nobody ever bothered to ask me why. There were people who didn't see that, and they saw me. But why did they see me? Was it from their own place, their own beliefs of they didn't believe that about me, and so they could truly see the truth about me? Is that possible? Can we do that with each other? I think that we often do that. We sometimes will create our own little world where we live, and we use our wisdom to get this work done, or to do that for our families, or to make sure that we do this for our business or our office. We get things done. We get home, we fix up something, we create for others, we create for our volunteer programs. And we sometimes forget to use that strength, that power, that understanding that we have to express who we are. I was in junior high gym class, yeah. And one of the girls said to me, "You still wear an undershirt?" I was 12. She was being condescending because she wasn't any bigger than me, but she had on this bra. And I kind of felt like I was missing out. I was wearing little girl clothes, and here I was 12, growing up to be a young lady. In fact, my parents often called me that. It was more of, young lady, you do this. But I was becoming a young lady. My mother was in the hospital at this point in time, so I didn't have anyone to talk to about it. And as I said, my mom was a seamstress, so she had been teaching me how to sew, and I had taken a sewing class at school. So I went home and got one of my mother's bras, and I cut it up and safety pinned it to fit me. You have to understand that my mother was probably a 40 double D. So I cut it up and safety pinned it to fit me, and when I put it on, I actually felt different. I felt like I had stepped into my superpower suit. I felt like I was strong and I could do anything. I may as well have had on a cape. I had power. I had put on this bra and I had power. My 12-year-old mind knew that women were mature, stronger, wiser, and smarter. My mom may have been sick, but she got things done. She figured things out. She still had power and strength. And my 12-year-old mind said that women had breasts. Therefore, this must be their source of power. We don't get it until later. So that's when God knew to give us all of this knowledge and interesting ideas and the power and the strength. That's what my 12-year-old mind said. I wanted to access this power, this feminine power, because we're the only ones that had it. Women's bodies, especially our breasts, are often tied to our identity. They're tied to our femininity, our sexuality, and how others treat us or how they treat our breasts. It isn't always with the love and dignity that's deserved. And it seems often that we don't have high conversations about ourselves. Conversations that acknowledge our beauty, our power, our intelligence, the wisdom and all that and even more. Whether we're 8 or 58 or 85, this is the energy that we want to acknowledge in ourselves, and not only in ourselves, but we want to see it in others. I see it in you. Can you see it in yourself? Someone had mentioned to me that the Dalai Lama said that the world would be saved by the Western woman. And I thought, wow, that's an interesting idea. And I have looked for that quote on the internet several occasions, and I've not been able to find anything that supported that he said that. I find a lot that says he said that, but there was never anything that was the supporting material that it was said in this context, or this is why he said it and what he was looking for and why he was saying it. But supposedly he said it at the Vancouver Peace Summit in 2009. And so I went to that video and I took a look at what he had to say. And I couldn't find that quote, but there were some other interesting things that he said. And what he said was that women need to be involved in more influential positions in the world. He said that the world would be better off because women have more warm-heartedness, that we're more nurturing and more compassionate, that we're added into that are biological factors that make us more sensitive to others' pains and suffering. Not that we live in their pains and suffering, or that we have to. Sometimes we do, but we don't have to. But we are compassionate. And he went on to talk about how a compassionate person is not weak. A compassionate person is a person who can care for the well-being of others. Aren't we looking for that in how we want to run this country, this world, how the compassion to be able to have well-being and caring for each other? So this is what I think he actually meant, for women to let compassion motivate us, and then to take our tough nature, not anger towards another person, but towards a situation maybe, to let it motivate us. So my thoughts circled back around to the definitions. And we had energy is the ability to do work. Energy is how things change and move. And Webster said that energy was the ability to be active, the physical or mental strength that allows you to do things. So I came up with my own ABCs of energy. Energy is A, the ability. My ability to use my physical and or my mental strength to do things, to get things done. I appreciate my ability to allow myself to stand in all that I am. The B is behavior. My behavior is the softer side, the beauty, or also the direct side, the brave, the bold, the get things done, that I will take care of it. And the C is to choose or choice. Choosing says that there's multiple possibilities that I get to choose. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But it's for me, it's my choice. And then D is the divine, the answer that I don't always see, that isn't always there, that there is a divine answer. So let's just, there's just take a moment. So you may not be able to, but if you can, stand up. If you can't, just stay seated. But if you can, just stand up and give yourself enough space so that you can take a step. And when you're ready, just stand and close your eyes. Let yourself breathe, your eyes closed. And take a moment to think about all that you know yourself to be beyond who is standing. That higher self that you are, that loving energy that is bigger than anything you think you can be, that energy within you, that higher self. And see her, mine's or her, see her standing before you. Even if you're a guy, that feminine energy within you, see that higher self of you standing before you. They're beautiful, aren't they? They're smiling at you because they know who you are. They know you better than you know yourself. You see it, you feel it from them. They love you unconditionally. Through any mistake you may have made, through any misstep, any harsh word that has ever been spoken, they know you and they love you. And they know what you're capable of beyond this moment, beyond tomorrow. They know what you're capable of 10 years from now because they know the divine that you are. And they have a secret they want to tell you about what's available to you. Just take a moment and breathe it, feel it, and listen. And in this moment, just feel them walking around you, loving you all around you. And when they come back in front of you again, they're standing with their back to you. And there is an invitation from them for you to step inside. So just take a step forward and feel them integrating with you. Feel their hands around your hands, their shoulders shifting into you, their head. You're standing in their feet. You're standing in your own power. You're standing in your own knowingness. You're standing in that higher level than you knew yourself to be. And then just enfold yourself. Just enfold yourself. And when you're ready, just open your eyes, breathe your eyes open. And if you resonate with that, just wave. Or in the chat, you can put I see, I connect. Whatever your higher self said to you, what did they say about your ability to allow all of this? Your ability to allow the behavior of your choice, their behavior, what they see in you, what they see for you. I realized that I've always had this power and that I could access it at any time I wanted to. And that has been my mission, to access that power within me. And not only access it within me, but to assist other women to access it within them, to see it, to see that you have that power. And yes, you may know you have that power, but there's a power beyond whatever it is you know you have that you can go to. To see it and recognize it in yourself so that you can use it and reflect it to others, that they can see that that's where they are. So this has been my mission. And if you're liking that mission, I invite you to take it on for yourself. You're invited to follow me in this mission. And we aren't announcing it yet, but we have a project that's coming next year, and we would love your support. So feel free to go to soniajackson.com and leave your contact information so that we can keep you posted. And to know your ABCs of energy, you have the ability to allow the behavior of your choice divinely. So, just breathe. Just breathe. Thank you for coming today.